Hello and welcome. We're going to go ahead and get started, and hopefully, some more people will join us while we are going through some housekeeping. This is Solar Oregon's Comparing Solar Quotes webinar. My name is Abby. I'm a program manager here at Solar Oregon. On the agenda for today, we will be going through the components that make up a solar system for your home or business. We will then look at the different elements that are included in a solar quote. We'll then walk through some different criteria you might want to consider when deciding on a solar contractor. We will then look at some example quotes and what your quote from your solar contractor might look like. And then if you have not yet received any quotes, we'll talk through how you can find a contractor. While I go through a few more housekeeping things, I'm going to go ahead and also launch some polls. These are all completely optional. However, they just give us some good demographic data and information so that we can see how well a job we do on our presentation, which helps us get funding as an organization. So if you wouldn't mind participating in those, I'd be super grateful. As I said, this presentation is put on by Solar Oregon. We are a community-based education organization that focuses on education around solar power throughout the state. We do this through educational webinars such as this one and our How to Go Solar and Storage that covers the basics of everything you need to know in order to get solar for your home or business. We also do solar tours, do solarized campaigns where we help communities go solar together, and peer-to-peer education. Solar Oregon is a membership-based organization. You can become a member today on our website or by scanning the QR code below. You can also follow us on social media and Eventbrite in order to learn, see what we are up to and when we have events coming up. There's one last poll I'm going to launch. This workshop is also made possible by support from the Energy Trust of Oregon. Energy Trust of Oregon is an independent nonprofit that works to provide access to affordable energy throughout Oregon, specifically to the customers of Portland General Electric, Pacific Power, Northwest Natural Gas, Cascade Natural Gas, and Avista. Thank you so much, Energy Trust of Oregon, for your support of Solar Oregon. Energy Trust of Oregon also has their solar bid tool. This is a really great resource that you can use if you are interested in getting solar. You put in some information, answer some questions, and it will connect you with up to 3 quotes from contractors who work in your area. And thank you everyone for filling out that poll. There will be one last poll I will send out at the end of the presentation, but that is it for now. And lastly, please use the Q&A function at the bottom of your screen if you have any questions that come up throughout the presentation. At the end, I will be going through all those questions. There's no need to wait until the end of the presentation to put those into the Q&A. You can put them in at any time. In the chat right now, I'm also going to put some resources. These are just links to various things that you might find useful, and I might reference throughout the presentation as well. So now without further ado, let's get started. So here's a diagram of your basic solar system. First, here on the top left, you have the photovoltaic or PV panel. This is what would be mounted on the ground near your home or on your roof. And when sun hits this PV panel, it generates a volt of electricity. From there, that electricity flows into a secondary device called an inverter or microinverter, which converts it from DC electricity to usable AC electricity by your home. Both inverters and microinverters are installed frequently throughout Oregon, and both are great. It just really depends on the needs of your specific system. From there, that electricity flows into your home to power your computer, lights, charge your electric vehicle, anything in your home that runs on electricity. If at any point in time you're generating more electricity than your home needs, then any excess electricity you're generating from your PV panels will flow out to your utility meter and eventually the utility grid in order to be utilized by your friends and neighbors. And similarly, if at any point you need more power than your PV panels are providing, such as when it's dark out or if it is storming, then you can draw power from the utility grid, as you will get a new utility meter that flows in both directions called a bidirectional meter. This process also allows you to earn credit for the electricity you export to the grid, and then use that credit you've earned to pay for any electricity you are pulling back from the grid. That process is called net metering, and I'm going to walk through two quick examples of how that works to try and understand it a little bit better. So first, let's imagine it is bright and sunny. It's the middle of June, and there is no threat of snow in our forecast. Your solar panels will be producing a whole lot of electricity and doing a great job at it, and your consumption would probably maybe be only about half of that electricity that your solar panels are producing. That means that difference are the number of net metering credits you'd be earning during the sunny summer months. Net metering credits roll over from month to month. So that means you get to generate net metering credits all summer long. And then when it comes to the winter month, on a day like today, it's already dark out. It was pretty gray all day. I know there's been the threat of snow in the forecast all week. Um, your solar panels would still produce some amount of power as there is still some amount of sun, but they would be producing a lot less. However, your consumption has stayed about the same. That is then when you can use all those net metering credits you built up during the summer months, use them during the winter months to help offset that difference. Net metering credits, as I said, do roll over from month to month, but they do not roll over from year to year. The net metering year begins and ends on March 31st. So any excess credits you have on at midnight on March 31st, you forfeit. PGE unfortunately will not cut you a check for those excess credits. And what this actually looks like on your bill. So here on the top bit of the bill, you can see the net metering reader at the beginning of the month and the net meter reading at the end of the month. This customer in particular generated negative 327 kilowatt hours of electricity, meaning they generated more electricity than they earned by 327 kilowatt hours, and their billable kilowatt hours for this month are 0, and that negative 327 gets added to their year-to-date banked excess generation that they will be able to use during another month. So that is the basic of how the net metering system works in the state. This is also how your solar system really helps save you money. One important thing to note is that while this customer's billable kilowatt hours are 0, unfortunately, their bill would not be for $0.00. You pay between $10 and $15 just to be connected to the utility grid and some taxes and fees associated with that. And so while your bill won't be $0, and that would be quite nice, $10 to $15 is much less than the average utility bill here in Oregon, and it would not go up at the same frequency that we are getting utility hikes either. So now that I've talked through the basics of a system, let's talk about what your system might look like. Your solar system should be sized based on how much electricity you consume. The goal of your system should be to meet and not exceed your expected energy usage. As I mentioned, the net metering credits do not roll over year to year. They only roll over month to month. That means that you don't want to be paying for excess solar panels that you don't actually need in order to meet your expected utility usage. Your solar contractor will ask to see some of your past electric bills in order to best estimate what size of a system you need. Other factors that will be considered are the location of your home, your roof condition, your available space, your budget, and any aesthetic considerations, such as if you want the solar panels placed facing away from the street. The average size of a solar system here in Oregon is about 8 kilowatts, and the average size of a storage system is about 13.5 kilowatt hours. Now, while I'm going through some example quotes and everything, there are lots of reasons the cost of a solar system can vary. Those reasons can include the system size and what components are used, whether your home needs to have any structural analysis performed in order to prove that it can support the weight of solar panels and possibly upgrades if your roof needs extra supports for that. If your home needs any electrical upgrades, what your system design is, and how many incentives you can access. There can also be differences in your system production that you would want to consider. Not just what your payback time is. So when you're looking at your quote, you want to consider how many watts is the system you're being quoted at. And then you can also calculate your cost per watt by dividing total cost by your watt capacity. From your solar contractor should also provide you with a production estimate and inform you of any other charges that are on your quote. Now that we've talked through some of the basics of a solar system, what are some different elements that would be present in a solar quote? So first up, what's included would be the equipment and all the types of equipment used, so brands that your solar contractor would recommend, any fees associated with installation, so time and labor, and then also warranty and maintenance information. From there might be some add-ons that your solar contractor either recommends or doesn't recommend for your specific home. These can include whether um, you want an energy storage system, which could be an add-on to a PV system, what racking system you will have, and if you need DC optimizers, what type of inverter you are getting, if you are creating an essential loads panel in order to be able to keep power on in part of your home, but not others in the event of an outage. If you would like any advanced production monitoring in order to better see how your solar system is producing electricity, and if you need any extra protections from critters that might get into your solar system and cause damage. Some of these are things that would always be included, such as PV panels or an inverter, while others of these might depend. And your solar contractor might also give you options on some of these, though you may also want to do your own research, as they might also specialize. Important questions to always ask are what technology is in your system. You should be able to know what brands are being used and if it's a newer technology or if it's been tested and out on the market for a while. If you are getting an inverter and optimizer or it are micro inverters, do you need a DC optimizer if you are getting either or? These are all some questions to consider. Lastly, you also want to be aware of warranties. Warranty information should include the length of the coverage, what type of damage is included, and also understanding the difference between your contractor warranty and the manufacturer warranty. Solar Within Reach, which is an Energy Trust of Oregon program, has a 7-year full system workmanship warranty for eligible projects. There may also be some differences in logistics between different solar contractors. This can include the payment structure, if they have a financing partner they prefer to work with, and what contracts they require, and the timeline of how soon they think they can get your solar system up and running and connected to the grid so that you can start saving money. Now, solar systems can be very expensive, and financing is very common. If you're pursuing a loan, you would want to ask questions around what is the interest rate? Are there any dealer fees? Would there be a penalty for early payoff? Is it a fixed or variable loan? And how many times can you rematurize the loan? You'd also want to know what your refinancing options are and who services the loan. If you're considering leasing a solar system, you'd want to know if there is an annual escalator. Does it put a loan on your home? And it's important to recall that with a lease system, you would not own the system, which can cause issues down the road if you are planning to sell your home at any point. A power purchasing agreement is a specific solar option where you are leasing out the production of your solar system instead of the equipment. So in a sense, you are leasing out your roof space in order to have the solar panels there and lease out the power. Definitely be sure to make smart financial decisions and construct a financial professional if you have any questions or concerns. And do not do anything that would put you into bad financial straits. Now, with all these, there are also some great incentives available to help you afford a solar system. The largest incentive is the Federal Solar Investment Tax Credit, or ITC. This is a 30% dollar for dollar tax credit. This you are ultimately in charge of claiming this tax credit correctly, and definitely be aware that there are some common schemes out there to try and take advantage, but if you consult a tax professional, it can be very easy to claim on your own, and there's some great information online about how to do that. In addition, Energy Trust of Oregon offers two different incentive programs. The first is the Energy Trust of Oregon Standard Incentive, which is $950 for PGE installed solar and $1,100 for Pacific Power customers installing solar. And then they offer $475 per kilowatt hour, up to $5,700 for both PGE and Pacific Power customers installing storage. In addition to that standard incentive, Energy Trust of Oregon also offers their Solar Within Reach program, which is an income qualified incentive for both solar and storage. It works just like the standard incentive. It is just at slightly higher dollar values. The income cutoff threshold for that is very generous, so be sure to check it out. For both of these programs, the only consideration you as the customer have is you need to work with an Energy Trust of Oregon trade ally contractor, which I will be talking more about at the end. And then that contractor will handle all applications and you will just get to see the discount for these amounts listed on your final bill. Now that we've walked through some of that, what about some other criteria you might want to consider with your solar contractor? The first are credentials. There are various credentials you might want your solar contractor to have. Some of these are workmanship, such as the Trade Ally credential offered by Energy Trust of Oregon, which certifies that they are familiar with Energy Trust of Oregon solar installation requirements and guidelines, and that their work is up to Energy Trust of Oregon standard. And then there are also some more belief and value center certifications, such as a B Corp certification, which you might prefer a contractor to have in order to ensure that they align with missions that you agree with. You also would always want to consider the reviews for any contractor you are considering. Definitely ask your solar contractor for testimonials and references, and also be sure to check out online reviews. Then there's finally some of the softer stuff that you might want to consider when comparing two very similar contractors. This can include the company culture, the company size and structure, and how old the company is. Now that I've walked through all that, let's look at some example solar quotes. When it comes to your system overview, your solar quote should include the size of your system. In this example, it's 8 kilowatts, the equipment information, so what equipment is included, the system production, and the energy consumption, so a comparison of how much energy your home consumes and how much production your system is estimated to create, and then the estimated savings associated with that over time based on projected rate increases. It will then break down the system costs. So with a system price on average for an 8 kilowatt solar system being about $32,000, you can then look at the monthly cost and price per watt. It will then look at the incentives that you have available to you and some financing options. Some solar contractors will have a financer that they are familiar working with, but definitely do your own research, as your local bank or credit union might have options tailored to solar that you prefer. Now here's an example quote with numbers. So for this example, it is a solar system of 8.36 kilowatts with an estimated yearly production of 15,004 kilowatt hours. The estimated annual solar system offset for this is that this customer could offset 100% of their expected energy usage with solar power. And we can see that on this graph here with the amount of energy usage over time shown in the yellow, and the dark blue showing that expected production. So those higher months in June, July, and August help offset those months that fall a little bit shy of that yellow line. And lastly, we then have the equipment that is included in this estimate, which for this customer would be 22 SILFAB 380 panels, a monitoring system from Enphase, and an inverter from Enphase. And then we can look at the financing. The monthly loan payment for this customer would be $120 or $189 if they do not put their full federal tax credit towards this loan. The total system price for the customer is $42,818, and the loan amount is for that amount. With the ITC and local incentives, it takes off $12,845, making the net system cost $29,973. You can then see the 25-year average cost per kilowatt hour, where we can see the utility power and then the different solar options that this solar contractor quoted this customer for at different prices. So now we've walked through all that, we can look at how to find a contractor. I would recommend utilizing the Energy Trust of Oregon Trade Ally program. In order to access those Energy Trust of Oregon incentives that I mentioned, you need to work with an Energy Trust of Oregon Trade Ally. They have been rigorously qualified and approved to offer Energy Trust incentives and are familiar with all Energy Trust design and installation requirements. You can request a quote from Energy Trust of Oregon Trade Ally contractors using Energy Trust Solar Bid Tool. You answer some questions, put in some information about your home, and you'll be connected with up to 3 contractors that work in your local area. I would always recommend getting quotes from at least 3 contractors, no matter what, whether or not you use this tool, in order to ensure you have a proper number to compare it, to ensure you are making the best decision for you. This solar bid tool, though, is very easy to use and will connect you with up to 3 contractors. So it's a really great option just to simplify your life. I'm going to put the links in the chat again, and included in that is the link for the ETO solar bid tool. Once you have selected a solar contractor, and signed the contract, your contractor will complete all the paperwork for you, except for the tax credit. The permitting process can take from 2 to 12 months, depending where you are in the state and how backed up some of the local offices are. However, once your permits are issued, installation is very quick, usually taking only 1 to 4 days, and your contractor will manage all inspections and interconnections in order to ensure that your system is running properly and you're able to start saving money. Now that is all the information I have, so I'm going to start going through the Q&A. I know we already have one question in there. But if there are any others, please put them in. The first question we have are, what are the income requirements for reductions? I'm assuming this is about Energy Trust of Oregon's Solar Within Reach program. You can find the full income threshold list for that, but I believe the cutoff for a family of 4 is around $121,800. So any family of 4 at or below that would be able to utilize that program. Their standard solar incentive, though, is not income qualified, and you can use that no matter your income level. Apologies. And we have if there are any other questions, please put them into the Q&A. I'm also going to go ahead and launch one last poll, just so that I can have some feedback based on how I did while you are all thinking of your questions. We got another question in the chat asking what the income cutoff threshold for a household of 2 is for solar within reach. Unfortunately, I do not have that information off the top of my head. I only know the threshold for a household of 4, but you can find that information online. There is a link to the solar within reach incentive in the chat already, and I will send that again. And I would recommend looking on their website.